Thank you so much. Make sure you keep that enthusiasm going, because our next topic on using the risk assessment that John has talked about in her work in Auckland. Please welcome Imogen Bassett from Auckland Council. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko tēnei te mihi nui kia koutou. He tangata tiritio no ingarangi me airane o ku tipuna, engari I tipu ake au I tāmaki makaurau, kei raro I te maru o Oiraka me tata ki te Waitemata. Ko Imogen Bassett tōku ingoa. So I want to ask you how you would feel if I ask, which is more valuable, your grandmother or Aotearoa, Great Barrier Island? And can you do that for me in monetary terms, please? That'd be great. Does that feel confronting? Even if you're okay with it, how do we set about valuing such very different things? Well, the reality is that we are all valuing different things in our heads and making decisions between them all the time, whether we do it consciously or subconsciously. And the same is true in our biosecurity systems, where every time we think about whether we should manage a pest or how, we're coming up against a whole range of different value systems, whether we're explicit about all of them or not. And regional councils are tasked with reflecting those societal preferences in our regional pest management plans and the accompanying analyses that go with them under the Biosecurity Act. So, how should we value, for example, the whakapapa value of an ecosystem against its recreational use, perhaps, when to do so is to maybe bring a pathogen into the environment which is harmful? Or how should we think about the amenity value of a plant and the economic values of its sales against the fact that maybe birds are spreading its seeds into an indigenous ecosystem, or in the case of phoenix palms, that it is a leading cause of ACC claims and hand surgery because of its sharp spines? Well, as we've heard, there are a range of economic techniques which enable us to convert all those different kinds of values into money. Money gives us a common currency where we can crunch those all down and spit out a number, tells us this is a good thing or a bad thing to do. But of course there are a whole range of critiques that we can make about those kind of techniques. Don't have time to talk about them all here today, but just want to sort of call out two key ones. The first one is that, well, maybe we don't all feel okay about money being a unit by which to describe things that are important to us. And that can be particularly true for Indigenous peoples, and it can be particularly true for metaphysical concepts like, for example, whakapapa or manaakitanga. Can money adequately describe those things for us? The second one is a more practical obstacle, which is these data simply don't exist. We haven't monetised the vast array of values that our biosecurity system butts up against every day, let alone understanding density-dependent relationships of how much any given pest, of which there are many, might derogate from those different monetary values. And so for management agencies, actually, if we would go about doing all of that, we'd probably in many cases spend more on the analysis than we would on the pest management. That just simply doesn't make any sense, right? So for these kind of reasons, Auckland Council takes a qualitative narrative approach to analysing the costs and benefits that we have to do under the Biosecurity Act, and we encourage other agencies to do the same kind of approach. But the reality is we know that quantitative monetised analyses will still be done in the biosecurity system. Maybe your organisation is just so wedded to monetise CBAs, or maybe you are working on, say, a primary production pest, and it does feel like money is a reasonable way of representing the kind of values that are going on there. So if we are going to do that kind of monetised analysis, then we need to make sure that we've got a system that is fit for purpose for biosecurity. And so as John's just touched on, one of the key things then that we need to think about is the way in which we're comparing costs and benefits that might accrue today with those that might accrue maybe in 30 or even 100 years' time. And so discount rates are a way in which we tackle this challenge. The problem with traditional approaches to discounting is that they massively undervalue those long-term costs and benefits, to the extent that often actually things that happen more than about 30 years out into the future can become quite immaterial in the analysis. And we know that that's really inappropriate in a biosecurity context for a number of reasons. So firstly, we have these really long-lived pests that can be rocking around for several decades. And for example, we know with tree species that there can be lag times of around 150 years from introduction to impact. And so we've got to be thinking about those long-term impacts. And similarly, when we're thinking about the values that are being impacted, so we have species such as kauri that are around for hundreds, even thousands of years, and also the kind of timeframes over which te ao Māori is typically preoccupied are much more long-term. And we've just heard actually from John that even economic benefits can take several decades to materialise. So clearly we need to be thinking long-term. So I'm an ecologist, but I teamed up with Peter Tate, who's an economist from Lincoln University, and he did some thinking about what is a more appropriate approach to discounting in a biosecurity context. And this is where he's recommending the social rate of time preference approach. And there are two key elements of that I just want to highlight today. So firstly, much lower discount rates than we would traditionally use, or we would see Treasury recommending. And the second one is that we don't just apply a single consistent discount rate across the whole analysis, but rather as we think about costs and benefits that are happening further and further out into the future, that we're applying a progressively diminishing discount rate to those values. So there are research briefs up the back that summarise this, and also if you're interested in hearing more, you can reach out to myself or Peter. Thank you.
Rawe, wene kōrero katoa, amazing kōrero. Thank you so much. And I love you talking about the context of time, and we often say, we want to be a good ancestor. What does that really look like? What does it mean? And we talk about our tamariki mokopuna, the next generation. And I think, do we only care about the people that we personally know? I mean, we just got introduced to Mr. Boucher. Is it all about knowing them? Because I think about my mokopuna, and I know I don't know them yet, but I know that I love them already. So that kind of thinking and all the intricacies of it, kia kaha rā koe. I know it mustn't be easy, but thank you for bringing that into a context that means that investment is made about that mane. So thank you so much to Imogen Bassett. And now our next speaker.